Good news. I was reborn into a novel. Bad news. I was reborn as Stella Sterling, the fake heiress destined to be kicked to the curb. Good news. I'm the one who wrote the book. I knew that when the real heiress returned, she would use our parents' guilt to grind me into the dust. She would even frame me for selling company secrets, getting me thrown out of the family before running me over with her car. So, at the age of 4, I took a sewing needle and poked holes in every single one of my parents' condoms. From then on, I plied them with fertility-boosting foods and vitamins, determined to bless them with an abundance of children. Finally, when I was 5, my first little sister was born. The next year, my second brother arrived. And now, on my 18th birthday, the real heiress was back. She stared at the 8 little gremlins running around. She was speechless. I'm looking for Arthur Sterling. I'm his biological daughter. Riley, the original protagonist of my book, stood before the video intercom. She held up a paternity test, her back ramrod straight. This is the DNA report. I've come home. Our butler, Mr. Gable, looked utterly exhausted. Ma'am, there's a young lady at the gate. She claims to be the master's biological daughter. At that moment, my mother, Eleanor, was holding the wailing 1-year-old Lydia in her left arm while her right hand was busy prying 6-year-old Finn off his older sister. The household staff didn't dare intervene, forming a nervous circle around the chaos. Hearing the words, biological daughter, my mother froze for a split second. According to the original script, this was the moment for shock and disbelief, followed by her rushing out to tearfully embrace her long-lost child. But in reality,
Mom.
Ethan stole my Iron Man figure.
Mom.
Where's the dress I'm supposed to wear tomorrow?
Mom.
Sam threw up all over my homework. Mom. A chorus of mom erupted from every corner of the house. My mother ran a hand through her thinning hair. Stop, Mommy. Go find your big sister. She radiated an aura of pure, unadulterated despair, the kind that silently screams, let the world burn. I'm not seeing anyone. Tell her to go away. I don't need any more daughters. Mr. Gable looked pained. Ma'am, the young lady has a paternity test. It looks authentic. My mother scratched her head in frustration. I watched from the second-floor landing, trying to stifle a laugh. In the original story, I was the villainous fake heiress. As the only daughter, I was spoiled rotten before the real heiress came back. After Riley's return, guilt and blood ties made her the new family favorite.
But now?
When my older brother, Ethan, was born, my parents wept with joy and consulted astrologers for his name. When Riley was born in the original timeline, they were thrilled to have a son and a daughter. When my third sibling, Maya, was born, my parents had faint smiles, thinking it would be nice for the girls to grow up together. By the time Finn was born, number 6, my mother had decided to get her tubes tied. I talked her out of it. With the 7th, 8th, and 9th, my parents' faces grew darker with each birth. When Lydia, the 10th, was born, my mother had finally had enough and booked the surgery. My father, after finishing a shortbread cookie, casually named the baby Cookie. To my mother, another child wasn't a pleasant surprise. It was a horror story. Ma'am, the report. Mr. Gable ventured. I don't want to see it. Just leave it there, my mother snapped, not even looking up. Just get Lydia to stop crying. Oh, for heaven's sake, you little monster, please stop. You're giving Mommy a migraine. She frantically bounced Lydia in her arms, humming a nursery rhyme. As for the real heiress at the gate, clutching her DNA report and waiting for a heartwarming family reunion, nobody had the time. I strolled down the stairs, took the tablet from Mr. Gable, and glanced at the security feed. On screen, Riley was still holding her defiant pose. After a long wait, her expression had shifted to one of impatience and confusion. A small smile played on my lips. Let her in, I told Mr. Gable. She is father's flesh and blood, after all. We wouldn't want people to think the Sterlings abuse their illegitimate children. Miss Stella, but... Mr. Gable hesitated. It's fine. If anything happens, I'll take responsibility. I smiled, the very picture of a gracious and understanding older sister. Mr. Gable finally nodded and opened the gates. The moment Riley stepped into the Sterling family living room, her face was a spectacular canvas of emotions. The sprawling space was a war zone of scattered toys, picture books, and snack wrappers. A boy of about 6 or 7 was riding another 5-year-old like a horse, yelling, "Giddy up!
Giddy up!"
The horse was wailing his eyes out, snot bubbles forming at his nose. The two of them barreled straight into Riley.
Caught off guard, she stumbled back.
Instinctively, she lashed out, shoving the boy with all her might. Get off me! That push was delivered with full force. Where did this little brat come from, daring to run into me? 5-year-old Sam was no match for that shove. He went flying backward, his head cracking against the corner of the marble coffee table with a sickening thud. Wah! A huge lump immediately swelled on Sam's forehead, a trickle of blood running down from his temple. Sam, Maya, my third sibling, scooped him up and shot a venomous glare at Riley. Who are you? What gives you the right to come into our house and bully my brother? Riley, furious, shot back. The Sterlings only have 2 children, me and my brother. What makes you think this is your house? You and that bitch Stella, you're all imposters.
Crack.
The sharp sound of a slap cut through the noisy living room. Riley clutched her face, staring in disbelief at my mother, who had appeared out of nowhere. My mother's hand was still raised, her chest heaving with rage. Riley's eyes widened in a flash of panic. My mother roared, pointing at the swarm of children. Let me tell you something. Every single one of these children is one I carried for 9 months. Who are you calling a brat?
Huh?
Who are you calling a brat? Trembling with fury, my mother grabbed a feather duster from a nearby table and started whipping it at Riley. You dare hit my son the second you walk in the door? You dare call them brats? Which one of Arthur's mistresses are you the daughter of? Do you have no manners at all? Riley was stunned, frozen by the assault. She whipped her head around, her eyes landing on me, still watching the show from the staircase. I leaned against the railing and gave her a brilliant smile. Mom, calm down. I walked down and gently patted her back. Riley wasn't raised with us after all. It's understandable that her etiquette is a little lacking. We can teach her over time. I turned to Riley, my face a mask of innocence. Riley, just apologize to Mom, and we can put this all behind us. Riley gritted her teeth and dropped to her knees with a thud. The tears came instantly. Mom, I'm sorry. She wept beautifully, a sight that would soften any heart. I grew up in an orphanage. I was bullied my whole life. If I wasn't tough, people would walk all over me. I had to fight dogs for scraps just to eat. I wasn't lucky like Stella, who got to live a life of luxury in my place. Please, Mom, forgive me. She looked up, her eyes, so similar to my mother's, peering timidly at her. Wow, she even managed to take a jab at me while playing the victim card. Mom, I honestly didn't know I had so many brothers and sisters. I just wanted a family so badly. My mother's tense expression softened. The fire in her eyes faded, replaced by a flicker of guilt. All right, get up, she sighed, reaching out a hand to help Riley. A flash of triumph crossed Riley's face. But just then, wah! A deafening, soul-shattering cry erupted again. This time it wasn't Sam. It was Lydia. Sky, sister, sky, so sky. 3-year-old Lydia buried herself in my arms, her little face red from crying, her breaths coming in ragged gasps. She was a preemie and had always been frail. This crying fit was so intense, she almost passed out. Oh, my sweet angel. My mother's hand, which had been reaching for Riley, instantly retracted. She lunged toward Lydia. What's wrong, my darling? Did she scare you? It's okay, Mommy's here. The other children who had gathered around Riley scattered, now hovering anxiously around Lydia. Riley's eyes were locked on Lydia, the center of everyone's attention, and she ground her teeth so hard I could hear it. I held Lydia, gently patting her back. Suddenly, Riley was standing behind me. Owie! Hand Owie! Lydia shrieked, holding up her little hand, her cries heart-wrenching. I looked down. On the back of Lydia's pale, tender hand was a bright red nail mark, already beating with blood. Riley saw it and immediately launched into a tirade.
Stella.
What did you do? How could you pinch your own sister? If you don't want me here, I'll leave. Why do you have to hurt our sister just to humiliate me? Her accusation hung in the air, plunging the room into a dead silence. I almost burst out laughing. You're saying? Stella pinched Lydia. Leo, my 4th sibling, scoffed as if he'd just heard the world's dumbest joke. He walked over, grabbed my hand, and held it up in front of Riley's face. Open your damn eyes and look closely. My nails were trimmed short, perfectly even with the tips of my fingers. To take care of my younger siblings, I never let them grow out, and my hands were softer than my face. I couldn't scratch a block of tofu, let alone draw blood. Riley, on the other hand, her hands were rough, her nails long, sharp, and pointy. She was the only one in the entire house who had them. My mother, trembling with a fresh wave of rage, pointed at the door and roared. "Take her to her room and lock the door. Let her think about what she's done." Two security guards then dragged a protesting Riley away like a sack of potatoes. After a few days of confinement, Riley emerged much more subdued. Finally, the night of my older brother Ethan's engagement party to a Miss Davenport arrived. This was a pivotal scene in the original book. It was also the turning point that sealed my fate. According to the original plot, Riley would drug me tonight, causing me to end up in bed with the Sterling family's mortal enemy, the novel's main villain, Vincent Hawke. Then, she would plant a USB drive containing company secrets, stolen from our father's study, in my room. She would then lead a crowd to catch me in the act, cementing my reputation as a traitor. Faced with this impending setup, I decided to do nothing. I would simply wait for Riley to make her move. The party began. Riley's eyes kept drifting toward the wine glass in my hand. I played my part perfectly, raising the spiked glass of red wine and downing it in one go. I even swayed a little, feigning dizziness. "Stella, are you drunk?" Riley immediately rushed to my side, her face a mask of concern as she supported me. "Let me help you upstairs to rest." I leaned against her, nodding groggily. Riley helped me to a room, shoved me onto the bed, and quickly left, locking the door behind her. I felt someone else lying next to me. The person pulled me into their arms as my consciousness faded completely. The next thing I knew, I was being woken up by shouting. "Dad, Mom, I swear I saw Stella go into this room with our family's nemesis." Riley's anxious voice came from outside the door. "That's impossible. Stella would never cheat. That was my mother." "Mom, Stella isn't your real daughter. You can't trust her." Crash. The door was thrown open. Riley burst in first, followed by my parents and a crowd of guests.
Ah.
Seeing the scene on the bed, Riley let out an exaggerated scream.
"Stella.
Dad never planned to kick you out. How could you do something like this for money and power?" Vincent Hawke and I were sitting up in bed, disheveled. I quickly pulled the covers over myself. "What are you doing? Why are you barging into my room?" Vincent moved to shield me. "Riley, what is the meaning of this?" he asked, his voice cold. My father's face was dark as he stared at Riley. Seeing her audience assembled, Riley began her performance. She pointed at me, her voice thick with tears.
"Dad.
Don't be fooled by her. She's a thankless traitor. Not only did she collude with the Hawke family, but she also stole confidential files from your study to give to Vincent. I saw it with my own eyes. It's right under that pillow." She rushed forward and yanked the pillow away. Sure enough, a black USB drive lay there. "You framed me," I exclaimed, frowning at the drive. Riley held it up triumphantly. Caught red-handed. "Stella, what do you have to say for yourself? You sold out the family that raised you for money. You're worse than an animal." "Dad, Mom, we have to throw this backstabbing snake out of our family." Sam, my 9th sibling, ran out and stood in front of me, crying desperately. "No, you can't make Stella leave. She's the best to us. Stella would never betray the family. It's you, you bad woman. You're framing my sister?" Noah, number 8, stepped forward and started shoving Riley. "Dad, Mom, I also have security footage of Stella going in and out of the study," Riley announced, trying to seal my fate. "It's definitely her, stealing company secrets." She shot me a provocative glance and pulled out her phone to play the video. Then, she pulled Lydia, who was standing in the corner, into the spotlight. "Lydia, can you tell all the uncles and aunts what you told me earlier? Was it Stella who went into the study and stole the files?" "Tell everyone." Lydia hesitated, looking from our parents to me. Big sister. I'm sorry, please don't be mad at Lydia. It was." Before Lydia could finish, Riley interrupted loudly. "Stella, even if you're not Mom and Dad's real daughter, they still cherished you and gave you everything. How could you betray them? If you hate me that much, I'll leave. You don't have to betray our family just because of me." Riley's accusations were passionate and filled with tears. Hearing Riley cry, Lydia started crying too. I'm sorry, big sister, it's all Lydia's fault. Riley's sister said if I put this black thingy under the pillow, she'd give me candy, hick wah. "I'm sorry, Mommy, hick, Lydia was wrong. I was just hungry, hick. Daddy, Mommy, you can punish Lydia. Don't be mad at Riley's sister." I had to laugh. Riley had planned for everything, except for the fact that I had raised Lydia to be a sweet little angel on the outside, but a cunning little schemer on the inside. You're lying. Stella bribed you. You're all ganging up on me. Riley shrieked hysterically, pointing at Lydia. I never even went near the study. How could I have stolen the files? But Stella went in and out all the time. And she's not even a real Sterling. Who knows what evil plans she's been hatching? My father's face was grim. He seemed to be wavering. Stella, did you really? My mother began, her voice hesitant. It looked like she was starting to believe it too. The guests began to whisper amongst themselves. What a mess. So, did Stella steal it? Or did Riley frame her? Well, if that USB drive is real, Stella Sterling's life is over. I sat on the bed and calmly smoothed my hair. Watching Riley's desperate, cornered animal act, I couldn't help but chuckle. Since my dear sister is so certain, why don't we take a look? I turned to Maya. She understood immediately and handed a tablet over. Dad, since Riley's sister claims these are top-secret files, perhaps you should verify them yourself? My father took the tablet, gave me a long, searching look, and then plugged in the USB drive. All eyes were glued to the small screen. Riley craned her neck, her eyes gleaming with excitement. She was certain it contained the core data of Sterling Industries. After all, she'd copied it from our father's computer herself. A video began to play automatically. A pink, pig-like cartoon character was wielding a water gun, spraying a superhero that looked like a discount Power Ranger. The background music was a cheerful, ridiculous nursery rhyme remix. Peppa Pig's a gangster now. Give it up for Peppa Pig, wow. The peeking guests looked like a crowd of confused old people trying to use a smartphone. Puffed. Someone couldn't hold it in and burst out laughing. A moment later, the entire room erupted in hysterics. The guests, who had been expecting a juicy scandal, were bent over with laughter. This is the Sterling family's corporate secret? Power Rangers versus Peppa Pig? Ha ha ha, now that's top secret. The art style looks like something a kindergartner drew. My father's expression shifted from grim to stunned, and finally, to complete constipation. He looked up at the petrified Riley, his voice simmering with rage. This is what you call stolen company secrets. You caused this massive scene at your brother's engagement party and tried to send your sister to prison for this? My brother Ethan leaned in for a look, his mouth twitching. Isn't that the drawing Noah did last week? I told him it was creative. Riley was in complete shock. Her trembling hand snatched the tablet, and she frantically swiped at the screen. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. I copied it myself. She clapped a hand over her mouth, cutting herself off. I took the opportunity to twist the knife. Copied it yourself from what? From Dad's computer? I looked at her with a smirk. Dear sister, Dad's study has a retinal scanner lock. Besides Dad and me, not even Mom can get in. How did you manage it? And how did you know the password? Riley's face went deathly pale. Vincent Hawke sneered, his gaze sweeping over Riley with contempt. The Hawks and the Sterlings may be competitors, but Riley is my fiancé. I'm not so classless as to resort to such cheap tricks. Besides, he added, pulling me closer, what's wrong with me being intimate with my own fiancé? Is that a crime? Riley felt her world crumble. She remembered Vincent Hawke being the villain of the book, but she had no idea when he had become Stella's fiancé. Of course she didn't. In my desperate bid for survival, the second thing I did after transmigrating was to passionately pursue the main villain. The whole city had buzzed about it. Everyone knew that Stella Sterling was head over heels in love with Vincent Hawke. Enough. My father's voice was final. He shot Riley a disgusted look. Starting tomorrow, she's being sent to a boarding school abroad. And she is not to return without my permission. The house had been so peaceful before she arrived. Since she showed up, it had been nothing but trouble. He was sick of it.
No.
I won't go. Why should I? Riley struggled like a madwoman. I'm the real one. Stella's the fake. Why are you all helping this bitch bully me? It's all mine. Everything the Sterlings have is mine. My parents' love, my brother's affection. It all should have been mine. What right do you have to steal what belongs to me? After Riley was shipped off, a rare sense of peace finally returned to the Sterling household. My parents were so thrilled by her departure, they practically threw a party. They each had a second helping at dinner that night. 3 years later, I was having a barbecue in the garden with my younger siblings when a news report interrupted the program on the outdoor TV. Today, returning expatriate and business magnate Leo Eldon and his fiancée, Miss Riley Sterling, have made a high-profile return to the country. Eldon Industries has announced its full-scale entry into the domestic market, vowing to become the city's top financial powerhouse. On screen, Riley was decked out in designer brands, clinging to the arm of a handsome man, her smile triumphant. That man was Leo Eldon, the original hero of my book. Who would have thought that, even after being sent to a miserable boarding school in the middle of nowhere, Riley's protagonist Halo would lead her to bump into Leo Eldon at an airport? It was love at first sight, an instant, passionate affair. Using her memories of the original plot, Riley helped him avoid several business pitfalls, successfully securing her place as the woman he cherished most. "TCH, this woman is like a cockroach. You just can't kill her," Maya muttered, flipping a kebab and rolling her eyes. On the screen, Riley looked into the camera, her gaze arrogant as she made a pointed remark. "This time, besides expanding our business, I'm also here to take back a few things that rightfully belong to me. Some people have been occupying someone else's place for far too long. It's time they returned it." She was declaring war on me. "Stella, she sounds pretty full of herself," Leo, my fourth sibling, remarked, pushing up his glasses. "Be more confident," I replied. "Drop the pretty. Want me to hack into Eldon Industries' system and teach her a lesson?" "What's the rush?" I said, leisurely wiping my mouth.
She just got back.
"We should let her have her fun for a day or two." Riley moved quickly. Within days, Eldon Industries began a relentless assault on the Sterling and Hawk families. With the advantage of her foreknowledge, it was like Riley could see the future. One day she'd snatch a major contract from the Sterlings, the next she'd intercept a land deal from the Hawks. She even publicly mocked Sterling Industries as a sunset business and the Hawks as new money. The society gossip circles were abuzz with rumors that I was a parasite, only capable of leeching off my family, unlike the brilliant Riley, who could generate profit. Whoever married me was in for a world of misfortune. During that time, our company's stock fluctuated several times, and my father's hair seemed to turn a shade whiter. "That wretched girl. I should have smothered her in her crib," he roared, smashing a glass. Riley's proudest achievement was her focus on the upcoming Southside Development Zone bid. It was a major government project, and whoever won it would dominate the city's business scene for the next decade. In the original book, Leo used this project to utterly crush the Sterling and Hawk families. Naturally, Riley was determined to win it. At the dinner table, my father was sullen, and Vincent was in no mood to talk. "Dad, Vincent, let's sell all of our land in the development zone," I said suddenly. "Sell it. That area is prime real estate. If we sell it, we'll be ruined," my father yelled, slamming his hand on the table. "What's your plan?" Vincent asked, ever the strategist. "In a direct bidding war for the zone, we can't compete with Eldon Industries," I explained. "We might as well sell the land to them at its peak value and use the capital to buy up property in the North Side slums." "The slums? You think we can make money off that worthless land?" Vincent raised an eyebrow. "Absolutely." The day Riley secured the Southside Development Zone, the entire city was abuzz with rumors that the Sterling and Hawk families were finished. Eldon Industries' stock soared, and Riley was hailed as a business prodigy, courted by everyone. To celebrate, she brought a crowd to the Sterling mansion to gloat. "I hear the Sterlings have been investing quite a bit in that slum North Side," she taunted. "What's the plan? Are the Sterling and Hawk families getting into the scrap metal business?" A wave of snickering went through her entourage. Everyone was there to watch the Sterlings make fools of themselves. Giving up the golden goose of the South Side to develop a godforsaken slum in the North Side was, to them, utter madness. My, listen to you, sister," I chuckled. "What's wrong with scrap metal? If you can turn trash into treasure, that's a skill. Unlike some people who are handed a golden goose and still end up begging on the street." "You." Riley's face darkened, but Leo held her back. "It's fine. Let's see how smug she is when our project is completed." Unfortunately for Riley, she would never see that day. A breaking news alert flashed on the living room television. "We have just received a report that a large complex of ancient tombs has been discovered beneath the Southside Development Zone. The Bureau of Antiquities has intervened, immediately halting all construction projects in the area. Furthermore, due to complex geological structures, the region faces a severe risk of subsidence and has been classified as a high-risk zone, with all commercial development permanently prohibited."
Crash.
Riley's wine glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. She stared at the screen, her face as white as a sheet. "No, impossible. That's impossible. In the original book, this land was developed without a hitch, making the Sterlings a fortune. Where did ancient tombs and subsidence risks come from? This plot point was, in fact, in the original book. It just existed in my outline, a future event I hadn't written yet. I had designed it as a trial to test the main character's relationship. I never finished the story before I was pulled into it. I was just taking a gamble when I told my father to sell the land. I never expected it to pay off so perfectly. In other news, the reporter continued, the city government has officially announced the launch of the Northside New District Plan. The former slum area will be redeveloped into a new central business district, with 3 new subway lines converging at its center. It is understood that Sterling Industries and the Hawk Corporation had already completed the acquisition and planning for this area in advance. Everyone who had been waiting to laugh at the Sterlings was now silent. Overnight, the North Side slums had become the most valuable real estate in the city, and the South Side development zone had become a protected heritage site that couldn't be touched. The massive investment from Eldon Industries was gone, completely washed away. Worse, due to breached contracts and construction halts, the company was facing astronomical compensation claims and debt. The dream of becoming the city's top powerhouse had shattered before it even began. It was you. This was your doing. Riley lunged at me, but Vincent shoved her aside. She fell to the floor in a heap. Mr. Eldon, if I were you, I'd hurry back and check your company's books, Vincent said coldly to the ashen-faced Leo. After all, to secure this land, your dear fiancé here embezzled quite a sum from your company, not to mention the high-interest loans she took out. Hearing this, Leo didn't even bother to help Riley up. He turned and ran out of the house. Stella, I hate you. I hate you, Riley screamed from the floor. I looked down at her with pity. What's the use in hating me? If you're going to hate someone, hate your own greed and arrogance. In this battle, Riley had lost everything. Eldon Industries went bankrupt. Drowning in debt, Leo Eldon took what little money was left and fled the country, leaving Riley to deal with the entire mess. With nowhere left to turn, Riley finally snapped. She couldn't accept her failure, and she certainly couldn't stand to watch me succeed. So, she turned her sights on my father. It was a Friday afternoon. My father went to the park for his usual stroll and never came back. His phone was off, and his GPS tracker had been disabled. The house was in chaos. My mother was crying hysterically.
Ding.
My phone buzzed with a video message. In the video, my father was tied to a chair, a gag in his mouth, his face bruised. Riley held a fruit knife, tracing it along his cheek with a twisted, manic grin. Stella, if you want your daddy to live, bring me the deed for the North Side land. I have nothing left to lose. If you dare call the police, I'll take him down with me. The background was a dim, abandoned chemical plant. She's really lost it. That's her own father, I said, my face impassive as I handed the phone to Leo, my tech genius brother. Have you located them? Leo's fingers flew across the keyboard, a stream of green code flooding the screen.
Done.
Abandoned chemical plant on the west side, warehouse number 3. I stood up and cracked my knuckles. All right, team. We've got a job to do. She dares touch our dad? She must have a death wish. Max, my 7th sibling, cracked his knuckles and grabbed a baseball bat. Count me in. I haven't tested my new pepper spray formula yet, my sister, number 5, exclaimed, pulling out several small canisters. Me too. My drone fleet is already on standby. Noah, number 8, said, fiddling with the remote control. Even little Lydia strapped on her yellow duck backpack, which was filled with various bottles of hot sauce. Let's go. Rescue Dad. Our ragtag army marched toward the west side. Inside the chemical plant, Riley was gloating over my father. Well, old man, didn't expect this, did you? You ended up in my hands after all. If you had just given me the family fortune from the start, none of this would have happened. But no matter. Once I get that land, I'll make my comeback. And then, I'll grind that bitch Stella into the dirt. My father struggled against his restraints, trying to speak. Riley ripped the gag from his mouth. Wanna beg for mercy? Too late. My father took a deep breath and sighed. Riley, just stop. Stop? Why should I stop? I won't accept this, she roared. I'm trying to save you, my father said earnestly. Do you have any idea who you've provoked? Those kids, they're much more ruthless than I am.
Ha.
You mean those little brats who are only good for making mud pies? Riley sneered. They're probably hiding at home, crying their eyes out right now. The words had barely left her mouth when,
boom,
the warehouse doors were kicked open. I stood there, casually holding a golf club. Behind me were my 8 siblings. Who said we were crying? I asked, a sweet smile on my face as I looked at the stunned Riley. We're here to send you off. The sight clearly startled Riley, but she quickly recovered, pressing the knife to my father's throat. Don't move. One more step and I'll kill him. The blade nicked his skin, drawing a thin line of blood. The air froze. Riley, that's your biological father, I said, my smile vanishing, my eyes turning cold. Cut the crap. Where's the contract? Did you bring it? She shrieked. I don't believe you'd really let this old man die. The contract. I chuckled softly. No contract. But I did bring you a gift. I snapped my fingers. Bzzzzzzz. A dense buzzing sound suddenly filled the air from above. Riley instinctively looked up. Dozens of drones hovered in the air, each one carrying a water balloon. What is this? Before she could finish, Noah gave the command. Release. Dozens of balloons dropped simultaneously, landing with perfect accuracy on the thugs Riley had brought with her.
Splat, splat, splat.
The balloons burst, but they weren't filled with water. They were filled with industrial-strength superglue. The thugs were instantly stuck, unable to move, their bats and pipes glued to their hands. They buzzed around in place like trapped flies. Damn it. Seeing things go south, Riley raised the knife to strike my father. In that split second, a dark shadow shot forward like a lightning bolt. It was Lydia. Her legs might be short, but she was fast. Using her small size to her advantage, she darted behind Riley and sank her teeth into her calf.
Ah!
Riley cried out in pain, the knife faltering. Seizing the opportunity, Max rushed forward. He knocked the knife out of her hand with one swing of his baseball bat, then lifted her up like she was a kitten. You messed with my dad? You really do have a death wish. What started as a kidnapping had turned into a one-sided beatdown, courtesy of the 8 Sterling siblings. When the police arrived, they were greeted by the sight of thugs glued together in a giant, writhing ball, and a bruised, swollen Riley being force-fed hot sauce by a giggling toddler. One of the officers looked at the scene, his mouth twitching. So, are we late? I tossed my golf club aside, dusted off my hands, and offered him my most charming smile. Not at all, officer. You're just in time for the cleanup. Riley went insane. This time for real. It wasn't an act. The doctors diagnosed her with severe delusional disorder, accompanied by manic episodes. She was admitted to a psychiatric hospital on the outskirts of the city. When I went to visit her, she was wearing a striped hospital gown, sitting by a barred window, so thin she was almost skeletal. But her eyes were feverishly bright. She was pointing at the empty air, muttering to herself. I am the eldest daughter of the Sterling family. I am the wife of the city's most powerful man. That bitch Stella is dead. I ran her over with my car. Ha 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 ha. Kneel. All of you. Kneel before me. I am the protagonist. I am Destiny's chosen. When she saw me walk in, she suddenly stopped. Her cloudy eyes stared at me, and after a moment, a strange, eerie smile spread across her face. Well, if it isn't the loser. She stood up and smoothed down an imaginary evening gown. What? Did you come to beg me to spare the Sterlings?
Too late.
I've already acquired Sterling Industries. I am the master of this house now. I just watched her quietly. Riley, wake up, I said softly. The Sterling family is fine. Mom and Dad are fine. Your brothers and sisters are all fine. Leo Eldon was caught and sentenced to life in prison. Your little dream is over.
Lies.
You're lying, she screamed, lunging at the reinforced glass separating us, pounding on it with her fists. Leo loves me. He's the male lead. I'm the female lead. We're meant to be. This is a book. This is a world inside a book. I'm the protagonist. How could I lose? I can't lose. She clawed desperately at the glass, her nails breaking, leaving bloody streaks. Restart. I want to restart. I want to reload my save. Something must have gone wrong. System? A system. Come out and help me. I want to kill Stella. Kill all those brats. Doctors and nurses rushed in and gave her a sedative. She slowly slumped to the floor, still mumbling incoherently. I'm the protagonist. I'm the protagonist. As I walked out of the hospital, Vincent's car was waiting for me. The window rolled down, revealing his handsome face. All done.
Yeah.
I got in and buckled my seatbelt. How was she? Did she recognize you? She's living in her own world. It's for the best. Riley's tragedy was her obsession with the plot and her protagonist halo. She thought that knowing the future gave her the right to trample on everyone else's lives. She forgot that life isn't a script, and no one is born to be a side character. Even a so-called villainous, with a little effort, can write her own story and become her own hero. Vincent was suddenly quiet. "What are you thinking about?" I asked. He reached over and took my hand. "I'm thinking about when I can finally make you my wife." I turned to look at him, a wide smile spreading across my face. "Mr. Hawk, is that a proposal?" He raised an eyebrow, then suddenly slammed on the brakes, pulling the car over. He took a velvet box from his pocket and opened it. A brilliant diamond ring glittered in the sunlight. "I was planning a surprise for tonight, but since you're so impatient, Miss Stella Sterling, will you marry me? Will you be my one and only, my forever protagonist?" I looked at the ring, then at the man before me. "I will." My wedding to Vincent Hawke was the event of the season. Not just because it was a union of the two most powerful families in the city, but because of the walking disaster area that was our bridal party and flower girl brigade. As the big sister of the Sterling clan, there was no way my 9 siblings were going to miss my wedding. On the big day, in the bridal suite.
Sis.
"How's my hair?"
Cool, right?
Noah, my 8th brother, sported a mohawk so stiff with hair gel it could have been used as a weapon. "Very cool," I said, rubbing my temples.
Sis.
"I hid your wedding shoes." Finn, number 6, grinned wickedly, waving his phone. "I locked them in a safe with a 10-layer password, facial recognition, and a voice lock. If the groom wants to find them, he'll have to solve the Goldbach conjecture first." I was already starting to feel sorry for Vincent.
Sis.
"I got you a present too." Lydia, my youngest sister, came running over in a poofy white dress like a little angel. She handed me a stun gun. "What's this for?" I asked, my smile twitching. "If brother-in-law ever bullies you, you can zap him," Lydia declared, shaking her little fist. I charged it all the way. "It's only 5 volts, but it's enough to make him tingly." "Well, thank you for that."
It was time.
The wedding march began. My father walked me down the aisle, his back straight, his eyes misty. "Stella, if you're ever unhappy, you come home. The Sterling house might be a little loud, but it will always be your home." "I know, Dad." My own eyes started to burn. At the end of the aisle, Vincent was waiting. He was breathtakingly handsome in a black tuxedo. We exchanged rings, said our vows, and shared a kiss. Everything was as perfect as a fairy tale. Until the bouquet toss. I turned my back to the crowd and threw the bouquet with all my might. "It's mine. Mine. Get out of the way. My sister needs to get married first. Give it to me." I heard a cacophony of crashing chairs and shattering plates behind me. I turned around to look.
My God.
My 8 siblings had formed a human pyramid in their fight for the bouquet. Max, at the bottom, looked like he was about to pass out. At the very top, Lydia was perched on Noah's shoulders, clutching the mangled remains of the bouquet, grinning from ear to ear.
Yay.
"I got it. I'm going to marry the chubby kid next door." Later that night, in our honeymoon suite, Vincent had finally managed to evict the demonic horde that was our welcoming committee. He loosened his tie, his eyes burning with desire as he looked at me. "Mrs. Hawke, the night is young." He leaned in to kiss me. Suddenly,
click.
A soft sound came from the closet. Vincent froze and threw open the closet door. Max was crouched inside, holding a camera, an awkward grin on his face. Bro-in-law, I was just trying to get some candid shots."
Out.
Vincent's face was dark. He had just thrown Max out when a rustling sound came from under the bed. Vincent lifted the bed skirt. Finn was lying underneath. "Hee bro-in-law. I was just listening." "Get out." Vincent took a deep breath, a suspicion dawning on him. He strode over to the window and yanked back the curtains. Sure enough, Noah was clinging to the window frame like a gecko. Vincent finally broke. He swept me into his arms and marched toward the bathroom. "Lock the door. Bolt it. Weld it shut." I was laughing so hard I could barely breathe. Listening to the jeers and banging on the door for my little siblings outside, I decided this was probably the happiest noise in the world.
The moral of the story is, nothing says I fixed my life quite like tactical birth control sabotage.